Hello, everyone.
I think we're live.
I think so too.
Hello. Welcome to our Progress Planner launch webinar. My name is Marieke van der Rakt and I'm here with the host of today's webinar. I know him pretty well because he's also my husband, Joost de Valk.
Hey,
Yay!
it's so exciting to be here and to be doing fun stuff.
Fun stuff, right? How are
Yes.
you doing, Joost? How
Well,
are
it's been quite the week, or weeks, I should say, probably by this time. But
Yeah.
I'm actually very happy that we're doing this. So we have some great guests lined up, and I think we're gonna make this a couple of very fun hours.
Yeah, we need something positive and fun in WordPress, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So we're really looking forward to telling you all about what we're going to do. So let's check out what we're going to do today. We have 3 amazing speakers from our WordPress community. We'll talk to Katie Keith, to Jono Alderson, and to Michelle Frechette. Yay! And for all of you watching and joining us, in Crowdcast, you can chat, and there's also a special section to ask questions. So feel free to ask questions, but do that in the question like thingy, because then you can also upvote questions from others. And we'll try to answer those questions by talking in our webinar, but if time runs out, we can also try and answer them by typing the questions. And also make sure to follow the Progress Planner webinar account. That's like all the way up in your screen. There's green letters or something, and you can hit it, and then it says following, and then you'll be notified if we're doing to do more of these webinars, because we're planning to do more of those webinars, and then you'll never miss a thing, and you want that, right?
So you don't want to miss us if you, well, you do.
Maybe you do.
Right? Well, you'll know after this webinar.
Yes, right. So can you go to the next slide, Joe? Yes. So
yeah, I can. Yeah.
In our webinar, we're going to talk about AI, or actually, we're going to talk about not AI. It all depends on how you look at it. What do you do yourself, and what can AI do for you? So what's your view on AI, Joost? Has it changed your life in any way?
Oh, it has. It has made me way more productive as a developer. I think I code at like 4 or 5 times the speed I did before, mostly because I only spent a portion. I try to make it like half of my time coding, so I don't always have all the functions, etc., in my head very well. And now AI just, it saves me a ton of Google searches or other things, and it actually makes me a lot faster.
Yeah, not only as a developer, right? Also as
in many ways, yes. I use it for everything.
Yeah, as a board member of our local football club, you also use AI. Yeah.
Yeah, I do a lot. We actually, when I get like 20 PDFs with things that are 20 similar PDFs with data, I just give it to AI and I say, give me the data in a sheet, and it does. And it's amazing. Yeah. And there's a lot of use cases like that where it really has made my life a lot easier.
Well, that's great. But we're not just having a webinar today.
No, we're not. So we're actually doing some more because we're also celebrating.
We're celebrating because we've launched a new product. We have developed something to overcome or to solve, this or this. And this is my favorite. But it's...
Don't do that. It creates a mess. This is more me.
Yeah, well, this is you, the next one.
Fair. I was this exactly an hour ago.
Yeah, yes, right? So we developed something to solve or to overcome. You have to the next slide. Procrastination.
Sorry.
Our new product, Progress Planner. No, this was not a nice picture of Hendrik. That was a joke Katie made in our chat. So our product, our new WordPress plugin, helps people to overcome procrastination while working on their website, because of course we're building something that has to do with websites, but a lot of people suffer from the fact that they don't know where to start or just postpone stuff. And that is, if you go to the next slide, Joost, because the tasks of maintaining a website can be really overwhelming. And a lot of people don't know where to begin or how to keep track of everything you need to do. And that's exactly why we started building our product, right?
Yes, it is. Website maintenance is boring.
Yeah.
And yet it needs to be done.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing we can do about that. And for the foreseeable future, AI is not going to solve that for us just yet.
No. But look at the beautiful designs that our team has made. These are pretty cool, right?
I'm very happy with what mostly Mike, our designer, has come up with. She's amazing, and this is it's looking really good. Yeah,
so Progress Planner will help you to remain active on your website, to keep working on your website. And in order to keep you going, we'll give you activity scores and you can earn badges. That'll help you to stay eager to stay active. So what's your favorite part of Progress Planner, Joost? What do you like most about it?
There's a couple of things, really. So when you've installed Progress Planner and completed the onboarding, it will actually send you a weekly email. And it does so for a couple of sites now, because I've installed it on a couple of sites. And it reminds me that I need to actually log into them and do some stuff every once in a while. So it's very good to get that nag, because I really need that. Otherwise, my sites become unmaintained, basically. And what I also really like, you can see it on the screen here in the top right, is the to-do list. Now, the to-do list is on the Progress Planner screen, which is fun, but you're not there all the time. But it's also on the WordPress dashboard. So you can very easily set some to-dos for you on your own site and just, say like, oh yeah, I need to do that, write it down. And the next time you log in, you go like, oh yeah, I need to do this. And I would actually put update plugins in there, because I'll just do that every time I log in. But things like, I need to write this post, or I need to update that post, or I need to update the data here, it's great to be able to do that quickly.
Yeah, I really like the fact that it says that I have to perform updates, and then I clicked on it and I actually updated myself. Although I work in a tech company, I am very much dependent on my husband for these kinds of stuff. But I did it myself because I was just sent towards the page. I wanted to earn those activity points. And so I think it also helps people that are less taggy to go to the tasks that they need to be doing. And especially if I think about the features we're planning to do, those will make it even better. And did you earn the badges? I think you are an awesome author already, right?
Yes,
I didn't.
I might have cheated a bit.
Yeah.
Just a tiny bit. I created my CMS market share thing and wrote some code to create like a ton of pages for all the CMSs. And then suddenly I had written enough posts to actually earn the awesome author badge. So yeah.
I think I'm only a wonderful writer. I need to write more in order to get those badges. So, but this is what a Progress Planner looks like now.
Yes.
At the end of the webinar, we're going to talk, but I do most of the talking because you have been talked out by then. I will tell you everything what we're planning to do in the future, or in the very near future, actually, with Progress Planner. But maintaining a website, whether you use Progress Planner or not, that's just a lot of work. So Progress Planner can really help you to keep going. But in this day and age, you don't need to do everything manually. So the question is, what should you do yourself, and what could the AI do for you? So you're going to deep dive into those topics with 3 guests.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to it. So let's get going with that. I am actually removing this. Let me see if I don't break it all.
Oh, I'm really big. Hello.
And now you're really big for
me,
just
right?
for a tiny second, but I'm going to send you to backstage, and then I'm going to invite our first guest. So thank you, Marika, and I'll see you later.
Bye.
And then I'm bringing on Katie, and I'm unmuting her because otherwise we won't be able to hear her.
Hey, how you
Katie.
doing?
It's very good to have you here. So you run Barn2, which is
that's right.
a plugins company. Can you tell us a bit about what Barn2 does?
Yeah, we're a plugin company. We're mostly WooCommerce plugins, but we're not just WooCommerce. We have 19 premium plugins and a team that's based all over the world looking after them.
Yeah, I think I'm using one of your less popular plugins, but the EDD VAT extension, I think, is yours, actually.
Yes. It is, yeah. Yeah, we built that for our own site, and people need it.
I was very happy to find that. I remember very vividly myself having, being there at Yoast when these new VAT rules came into play and having to build all that ourselves. And I was very much not looking forward to that. And then I found out that you had built something and I could just buy that and be done with it. And I was very, very happy. So I wanted to talk to you about, hey, how do you use AI in setting up an e-commerce site, because that's mostly what you do, and where do you not use it? So which are the things that we that we need to do as humans still, or where we can use AI but we need to start? And as we discussed before, it would be great to go through that through the customer journey of like, how do people actually do all this. So we'll start with finding a website. To be fair, we are coming back to that a tiny bit because we're speaking to Jono after this, and he tends to talk about SEO a lot. I don't know why he does that, but it seems to be his thing. And then we'll go through the whole ropes. But in setting all these things up, do you use AI a lot yourself?
I use it more as a tool, but I don't use it to replace me, basically. I think it's a useful tool, but it has limitations. So that's a good thing to talk about in terms of running an e-commerce store and what you should do yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do you think it has limitations? Is it? Well, no. Let's let you talk. Where do you think it has limitations?
Well, I think sometimes you need a human touch to make it clear that your site is run by humans, because people buy from people and that's what appeals to them psychologically. So, for example, we're jumping ahead a bit in terms of the customer journey, but if you use AI to write your product descriptions, then that's fine to do, I would say, as a starting point. But I absolutely would not just publish it unread on my e-commerce site. I would always read it, tweak the wording, and make it sound like a real person, because that's about your brand voice and all of that kind of thing. And often you can tell, you don't want your descriptions to say, in summary, this is a great product, and all the things that give away the fact that it's AI.
Yes, it does have some words that regular people apparently don't use as much, and that it really likes using a lot.
Oh yes.
but it's weird because it's been trained on the web, so there must be sections of the web where some of that is used a lot, but I don't think us normies do that.
Yeah, maybe academic. Okay. Maybe it's learning from academic writing or something, which isn't how we talk.
Yeah, Sam is saying in the chat as well. In conclusion, yeah, I do actually say that, Sam. Sorry, I probably shouldn't. So yeah, let's go through that customer journey. In getting to the website, is there anything do you think that people will find you through AI?
Well, I am starting to learn that they are finding my plugins through AI. So I was recently looking at analytics to the source of my conversions and started to find only a handful at this stage coming specifically from Perplexity AI. I thought, oh, this is interesting, because I've heard of some sites that are literally blocking AI bots because they think it's, I don't know, using resources or giving information for free. And I think that's a terrible idea. AI is a resource and you want people to find you. And so to test that, I went into Perplexity AI myself, and I searched for what is the best WooCommerce product filter plugin. And it did recommend my products. It recommended about 4. I think it was collating different roundup articles, but it did put my product filter plugin first. So I can see why we're getting sales from that. And I don't think we should cover this too much now, but I'd love to hear from Jono in a minute about how, if there's any way you can actually optimize for AI to make that happen more, because I haven't seen much about that yet.
No, it's funny. There's not a whole lot of writing about that. Although, to be fair, at every SEO conference I go to, it's the only thing people talk about. But so we will probably see more writing about that, and I'll talk to Jono about that later. I'll make a note of that. But they are finding you, and then once they get to your website, is there what they have to do first is find the product. They might get to the landing page immediately, but they might also search on your product. Is there anything there that we can do with AI?
Yeah, I think this is something that e-commerce stores need to think about a lot if they have multiple products, particularly if they've got more than, say, 20 products. They do need to be making their products easy to find once people land on that site. And we've got a non-AI plugin, WooCommerce Product Filters, that I just mentioned, which lets them kind of narrow down their search through things like color or attribute or whatever. But that's not AI, that's the customer choosing from product data. So I'm interested to see how this evolves in the future. I think in terms of WooCommerce, there's not that many great products doing it right now. But one thing I'm interested in is the use of chatbots to help people to find products, which I haven't seen very much on e-commerce sites, where you might type like, I'm looking for some boot cut blue jeans or something like that, and then it would recommend them, or even more in-depth stuff you could type. But things like DocSpot AI are allowing you to do that. And while they're generic chatbot plugins, I think the e-commerce store owners could be using those and training them on their product catalog and all of that in order to essentially provide a AI-powered shop assistant, and they could even brand it really nicely, like personal shopping assistant or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, because DocSpot is actually very easy to set up. It basically adds your entire site as context for ChatGPT, and it makes it, well, it's a very good chatbot in many ways. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. Especially on sites that have a large catalog of things that are close to each other, where you might have to like tweak a lot to find exactly the right thing, it could be very helpful. I know that every time I need to find a cover for one of my kids' iPhones, I need to figure out, like, okay, which iPhone is this? And now on this site, how do I filter by this specific type of iPhone to get the right case and everything? That could be very easily done with AI.
Yeah, that would work well.
So, and then they land on a product page. You were already talking about AI for product descriptions, and maybe that's, well, it's a good starting point, I think you were saying, but not the be all end all of it. But if you have, like, how many products do you guys have at Bantu?
19.
19. So do you probably still write all of those by hand?
Absolutely, yeah. I've tried using AI to write little bits of product pages, but it's not that useful. Sometimes it gives me a few different ideas for wording, but I certainly put a lot of human touch into that, particularly for a very visual product page where you're designing it like you want, up to 5 words in the main heading and then 20 in the subheading. You've got to give a very detailed brief to AI, but I have used it to support my human written product descriptions, and sometimes it says things I wouldn't have come up with in a good way.
Can you imagine sites where it would be useful to write product descriptions with AI for everything? I can see that if you have a very large site.
Yeah, I think very large sites where it's a huge job, and also sites where you're reselling products from another company. That might be that you're selling them directly, or it might be drop shipping, or even an affiliate site or something like that, where you've got access to the description from the manufacturer's website. But for SEO reasons, you need to make that unique. And I think that would give you a very clear brief to get AI to rewrite that instead of doing it yourself.
Yeah, I fully agree. That would actually be a good use. And then that's a description, but for images as well, would it be useful?
It could be, yeah. Product images are a big pain point for many e-commerce stores because they need to be so professional. And you also then need some editing expertise, like removing backgrounds from clothing images, for example, even like generating 360-degree shots where the camera turns around or something. So I think that the modern AI image tools are getting better and better at that.
Yeah, I was actually chatting with Levels at Levels.io, Peter, who's a Dutch guy. He was in my high school, who was building photo AI. So he's building literally that, where you can generate 360 images of people wearing a specific piece of clothing and things like that. So yeah, I can totally see that being very useful and saving loads of time and money on photographers.
Yeah, and so you get a better result and you've saved money, so the store owner definitely wins. And product images don't necessarily need to look totally realistic. They need to look a bit staged for the professionalism, don't they? So it doesn't even matter in some ways if it looks a little bit AI generated.
I agree. Yeah, it's a very good point. And then once we go through, I mean, there's on a product page, I have a description, I have images, all the content around it. Would we be able to upsell with AI as well?
Yeah, I think AI related products is a good opportunity because at the moment, say in WooCommerce, you have to manually select your cross sells to appear on the product page and upsells to appear on the cart page, whereas it would actually be much more effective and save you time as the store owner to use AI to automatically show related products based on the user's previous products that they viewed and so on. I mean, for years, we've had some of the top clothing sites, for example, have been showing on the product page other products that you've previously viewed. But this would go further than that because it would understand their behavior and their tastes and make additional recommendations that you haven't seen yet. And there's one free plugin that I haven't used, but I like the look of, which is called AI related products. And that does exactly that. So I thought that would be a good one to try.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. It's actually, in a way, it's also like the AI that we talk about a whole lot now is mostly LLMs. But this is actually where you can do a bit of machine learning as well. So what did other people buy that bought this, and how can we correlate those, and what else can we correlate that with? I think that you could do a whole lot of interesting things there relatively easily now because all these AIs are becoming so much more available. I don't know if you've seen it already, but Pascal from the Google team actually showed some Swiss Speedy on Twitter, showed some Swiss Spidey, I should say, probably, showed some very cool new AI features in Chrome that he was building a WordPress plugin for that could probably do those things on the fly in your browser. So I think there's a good thing ahead of us there where we can do this really easily. Okay, so let's say all of our AI has worked very well for us and people want to buy, and we get to the cart. Now, the cart is the thing where I go, do we need AI there, or maybe we don't need AI there?
Yeah, in my research for this, I kind of skipped over the cart because apart from related products, which we've already talked about, which there is a place for on the cart, and also potentially the checkout, like with order bumps or something like that, that could be AI generated. Apart from those particular areas, this is just a factual time when the customer needs to review their order and complete it, basically.
Yeah, and I also don't make your cart harder than it needs to be. I think that is a very important thing. But then if I abandon my cart, so one of the things I know from our history at Yoast is that we used to send out a lot of abandoned cart emails. like, hey, you've abandoned your cart, and is there anything we can do? But while you can automate that, we did it manually because Patrice, who did all that work, we were unable to get the same hit rate as he was getting with his manual emails with our automated abandoned cart emails. I don't know exactly what he did. That might be part of the problem. But do you think AI could help there?
Yeah, that's really interesting because nearly all e-commerce sites, including WordPress product companies, are doing this automatically, and which means that everybody sees the same abandoned cart emails at the same frequency. So I would be very interested to know what your colleague was doing, because we could potentially learn from that. What human touch is he putting, and how can we automate that, either with algorithms or AI? They might be the same thing, but we won't get into that.
No,
so
yeah,
I
they might be. I think there's a couple of things there. One is it's noticing, like, hey, what can we see something about what went wrong, and can we see where they're from? So can we see that it maybe that we know what particular payment method they were having trouble with? It's a bit more personalized, I think, than the average abandoned cart email is, which I think, yes, you might be able to do with AI. It was funny because he made his own salary back easily just by sending a couple of emails every morning. Wow. and that is like that is very worthwhile. So I think it's actually worth for someone to dive into and research, like, how can we make these better?
Yeah, that's really interesting and a very good hire. I hope some WordPress people are watching this and might want to go and build some of these products. Like, I don't think there is a WordPress plugin for like recovering abandoned carts in WooCommerce or Easy Digital Downloads. So hopefully someone will go and build that.
I think there is one, but I wasn't very happy with
AI.
it.
An AI one.
No, definitely not. No, or at least not to my knowledge. I hope to be proven wrong, and then I'll hear from the chat very soon, I think.
Yeah.
And
then, it's all just schedules at the moment, I think, all the existing products.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, there is a lot of boring stuff out there, which is what we try to fix with Progress Planner. A bit more fun in these things. I think that's actually that could actually do a lot of good. And then, if I've ordered, let's say I didn't abandon my cart, but I've completed. Is there anything we can do with AI post order?
Well, there is encouraging people to buy more. So your two goals after the order should be, one, to not get a refund, so to retain that customer, and two, to encourage them to buy more, whether, depending on the type of product, that could be an upgrade, it could be buying additional products from you. And so in terms of the getting them to buy more, being able to personalize emails is great. So with at Barn 2, we don't use AI for this, but we have a separate email for each of our 19 plugins, which recommends 2 related plugins that we think, oh, if you're using our product filters plugin, we think you might really like our product table plugin, which works with the filters, or something like that. So that's done manually and we've hand-picked it. But it would be much better if AI could look at the customer's behavior and previous products, even what they've browsed, and hand-pick those sorts of things.
Yeah, so if I bought 3 products at the same time, would I get 3 of those emails?
I probably should check that. We've got some logic which will you know what, when you stop sending it or something, but I'm not sure the exact logic. But definitely it doesn't send it if you've already got the other products. But there is always these problems with these schedules, and you annoy people.
Yeah, that is hard. It's also it's hard to get these things right, because what might be true for one person might not be true for the other entirely. Can you see on which sites people have installed it?
We are not that clever. We use Easy Digital Downloads, and we're not like tracking. We'd have to go into the license key and manually do it. We haven't set that up. That is a future project, actually, to identify high profile sites using our plugins, but we haven't done the coding yet.
No, so that is one of the things I know that we did adjust. We that we knew which plugins our site was, or which sites our plugin was running on, but we didn't tie it back on a one-to-one basis, because it would be actually very interesting to tie it back to, okay, so what are you using already? Which other plugins are you using, and can we, based on that, recommend you stuff that we have built that might be a good fit for you? I think there's a lot of opportunity there to actually understand the site a bit better.
That is definitely a problem for e-commerce stores. While I don't run WooCommerce, I know that WooCommerce store owners struggle with that. I run Easy Digital Downloads. It sounds like you do too if you're using my VAT plugin. And it's really hard to get the right product data about your customers and their usage and your sales and the sales trend. So I think this is an area that AI could have a really big difference, because the data is there in the WordPress database of all the different things that you want, but you can't get it out unless you do a lot of custom coding. So I really love the idea of being able to just ask AI, what are my top 5 biggest selling plugins and how does this compare a year ago, for example? Well, that's not that easy at the moment, actually. We've got loads of
hard, yes.
reporting. Yeah. And it should be, it's basic business data. But
yeah,
AI has potential with this. And there's tools like Motoric if you're using WooCommerce. There's others that have AI built in, like there's a Polar Analytics that has an AI tool. But I don't think they're perfect yet, because there's the whole hallucination problem, isn't there? So you're asking it about your data. How do you know that you can trust the responses?
Yeah, that is a bit harder, and it would actually. So you'd need to verify that what it's saying is actually true, and well, I don't think that we're actually there yet, because if. For instance, we built an AI, it's something I can ask Jono as well. If we built an AI that would query my analytics data, how can I trust that it doesn't hallucinate answers? Because that would be, well, problematic. But on the other hand, I do want a chatbot that actually goes and fetches my reports for me, because I'm at a loss every time I log into Google Analytics 4.
Yeah, I'm still looking for a good replacement. Yeah.
Yes, I keep on thinking, I thought I was relatively smart. If I can't do this, why do they think that this is good? But no, yeah, it is actually hard. Is there other reporting or other things around analytics and reporting where AI could help?
I think, well, I actually reached out to Polar Analytics to ask them that question, because I was curious and to whether there was a way around it. And they suggested that it's all in the brief and that there is a way, although I felt it was a bit woolly, their response, so I wouldn't fully trust it. But maybe it's
was it written with AI, perhaps?
The wording, I felt it was a real person, and yeah, but I wasn't fully convinced by the answers. And you can't have, if you're selling a product, you can't expect the user to write the perfect brief either. So I'm interested to see how this problem is solved. But at the moment, I think it's limited use with data and reporting. And there's also the issue of the data is being sent to the LLM, like with OpenAI or whatever. And I think they only store it for 30 days or something, and it might be anonymized. But there are some privacy issues with sending data to those places.
Yeah, I can see that. Do you use, now we mention support, do you use AI for your support team?
I am trying. I've been doing a trial project with a new DocSpot product that they're developing, which drafts responses in Help Scout, basically. And it's requiring more training than I had anticipated. So I'm struggling to justify the time to correct its responses and train it. So it's already been trained in our standard responses that we send to customers and our knowledge base, but it hasn't yet been trained in previous support tickets, which I'd like to do if we can overcome the privacy concerns of giving it Help Scout access. But at the moment it's like 50% is sort of a bit helpful, and the the other 50 is just not relevant at all. And so we're having to go in and edit each response so that it learns. And I think the potential is there, but it's a large project to invest in to get there. And so I keep kind of disabling it. So we're very slowly going in that direction, but we haven't mastered it yet.
No, I think for a lot of companies, getting more support done by AI is sort of a dream, right? Because it's a very easy way to save money. But yeah, no, it's also at the same time you want the best support possible, and it's hard to get there, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I started off by trying front-end chatbots for customer support, and I just couldn't. I'm sure it's my limitations and I should have involved my developers, but I just tried to train it myself and I kept getting made up answers. And because we are a multiple product company, that made it harder because it found it really hard to identify which plugin the person was asking about, and would often paste stuff from the knowledge base for the wrong plugin and that kind of thing. Even though to me, from a human perspective, it was quite obvious that they're asking about options on their product. They want WooCommerce product options. Suddenly it's talking about product tables. Hang on, that's not relevant. So I think you can get there, but it's a big project. You can't just switch it on and leave it.
No. Okay. Anything else that you think that people should know about in terms of AI and e-commerce that we haven't mentioned yet?
There was one more tool that I thought was interesting, which is called Pecan AI, or Pecan, as they say in the US. And that is a predictive analysis tool where you give it your historical data and it makes projections for the future. And I thought that could be really interesting, and maybe that wouldn't be such a hallucination, or at least predictive analysis is a projection by definition, that it's not an exact science. So maybe it doesn't matter if it elaborates a bit. So I'm quite interested to play with that to see whether it is a good way to get to project future revenue and that kind of thing.
Nice. Yeah, I'm going to look at that. I never heard of that, so that's a good tip. Well, I want to thank you, Katie. It's been amazing so far. We're going to bring in Jono real quick, and then we're actually going to ask the questions that we were already asking ourselves. I saw that Jono in the chat said that people and staff and interns hallucinate more than AI does. but we'll talk about that, I guess. So thank you, Katie, for being here, and for everyone listening. Do check out Bontu. Their plugins are awesome. I've tried a couple of them, and I'm actually very happy with them.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm now going to send you back to the wing. and mute. Yes, it's funny. I have to do this live, but I'm not actually very good at it. But now here we go. It's Jono. Hello.
It is. Hi there. I enjoyed that. That was really interesting. I don't do a lot of e-commerce stuff, so it's quite interesting to hear about all the trials and challenges that people have. And obviously, how do you scale that and make it more efficient? The big one, right?
It is. Yeah. So I was thinking, Jono, maybe we should do a little announcement as well.
Oh, yeah, you think? That's cool. Yeah, let's ship it. The dog's awake. Everything's very exciting. Yeah.
So the little announcement is that because we've brought the band together, and Jono is joining us at Emilia for some work in Progress Planner officially. So if you actually subscribe to our crowdcast, you'll be seeing more of Jono in our upcoming webinars, because he'll be there more often, and I'm really looking forward to that. So. Yeah. Well, that's the first. And then, we have stuff to talk about as well today now.
Yes.
SEO, site speed, AI. What are we going to talk about?
That's a good question. Let me share my screen, and I will. We can work that out as we go. I am not going to do the PDF like we said we would when we were planning, because I've changed some of the deck.
Oh no!
There we go. Yeah, we're going off script already
as we're going along.
Yeah, this will all go wrong. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of stuff we could talk about here. We've got not an infinite amount of time, so I think maybe we digress a bit. We see what's interesting. We see where we get to.
Absolutely.
In the speed of theme, we can go quite quickly, and we can stop if people have questions. So I think that the broad overarching thing, and especially given our little announcement, is I think there's a whole bunch of SEO and site speed and general site quality stuff that everybody knows that they should be doing. Everybody knows they should be taking care of their site and fixing 404 errors and a bunch of other stuff. Nobody ever gets around to. Nobody ever prioritizes because it's not fun. There's more important things like running e-commerce stuff and retargeting, but this sort of stuff still is important. Some of it, and some of the kind of broad category of SEO, I think there's a real opportunity to streamline with AI and tooling, and some of it you definitely shouldn't be, and some of it still just requires you to go in, log into your site, click on things and fix stuff. So we're going to go through a few categories of those kinds of areas.
Nice.
Yeah, so I want to ground us with one big question, because this is contentious and changes depending on who you ask and what the weather's like. But I think it's worth exploring briefly to kind of determine where are there AI things. So I think there's 3 areas as a business owner that you should be, or a website editor or manager or an employer that you should be looking at, that kind of categorize this whole field. And again, some of these AI is definitely your best friend. So the broad field of user experience is very much now overlapping with SEO. They're very much the same kind of space. And that comes down to things like, what's your site structure? And if you followed Marika at all in the heydays gone past, you'll know that she talks a lot about this and how do you construct your content and the relationships between pages, and how do you help users understand those hierarchies and categories and help them navigate around? Because if users can't find what they're looking for and intuitively understand where they are, how is Google going to be expected to do the same thing and understand all of that? Design is increasingly a big part of this field. So not just what color is the font, but the whole kind of, is this well presented? Is it cohesive? Does it look good? Is it clearly communicated? Can I read this easily? Design as in like the characteristics of the whole thing, that's super important. Speed, which we'll come on to some examples from, so I won't dwell on it too much, but how well are you doing on your Core Web Vitals? Super important. And then what happens when I click on things? Like, can I fill out forms? Do things move cleanly? Is it a pleasure to use? Is it nice? Because increasingly that kind of is it nice question is what determines, am I going to rank? Are users going to engage with my thing positively? And that's what Google's trying to understand. So it's a super hard thing to quantify, but these are the kind of things that you should be chasing. And then just slightly outside of SEO, but definitely still related and definitely still on the table, are things like accessibility, because if you are accidentally excluding 20% of your audience because of color ratios or poorly labeled headings or whatever else, then A, that's illegal and awful and not good business sense, but B, is going to impact your SEO indirectly. And then similarly, security. If your site gets hacked, then you're going to have big issues with trustworthiness. You're going to upset your users. Google's not going to trust you. So that's pillar 1. This is all super important. There's definitely places where AI can help. Design critique's a really interesting thing, like uploading screenshots and say, is this clear? Can I make this better? Is the font readable? That sort of thing. Really good, really helpful. 2 is your biggest area, content. Like you can have the prettiest site in the world, but if it's not saying anything, then Google has no incentive to rank you. So I think, again, Marika is hot on this, but things like language and alignment, are you using the kinds of words that your audience use? And are you communicating to and with them in a way that they are going to understand? Like if you call it a widget and users call it something else, you're going to not going to make that connection. You need to be creating content that's designed to match the needs of people who are searching for that thing. I think the most important thing that people underestimate is quality, utility, and value. So Katie mentioned unique content just now and the value of that. I'd go further and say that you really need to be creating inherently helpful content. Like if your e-commerce product descriptions are just rewritten versions of the manufacturer descriptions, it's better than nothing. But the better version of that is, have you interacted with the thing and talked about its pros and cons and added a unique perspective and actually created new value? Like the creation of value is where you need to be thinking. And do that differently and better than your competitors, because everyone has access to AI tools. And if you can respin product manufacturer details, so can they. And it just becomes a race to the bottom on who can do that fastest. Katie also mentioned that people buy from people. I think people overlook this. Like the Google's premise of expertise, experience, authority, and trust is super important. So making sure that you're demonstrating those in your content. Like, is this written by somebody who cares and who understands and who's touched it? And then are you doing that in the right language, with the right language, using the right localized terminology, the right localized psychology, understanding how different cultures behave and interpret stuff? And are you leaving room for people to have their own voices, like in comments and feedback and forums, and allowing, finding ways that you can now allow people to ask questions and have discussions? Okay, last column, reputation. Is the thing that you do or sell inherently good? Because if it sucks and you get a whole bunch of bad reviews, then you ain't ranking for anything. Yeah, social proof. Is there evidence of other people saying that your thing is good? Because if not, why should Google trust you? Are people doing that publicly in a way that they're reputable? It's not just you manufacturing it on your own site. Are other websites citing you and endorsing you? Like a lot of what SEO focuses on, how do I get good links and where do I get my links from? Better SEO says, how do I create content that means that I'm the place that people link to? So mindset shift. And then outside of that, do people talk about you? Like when you go around and visit your elderly parents for Sunday lunch, are you on their mind? Do you get mentioned? That's the kind of marketing you need to be doing to make Google care about you. And then part of how you might do that is use other channels like ads and TV and billboards. I think that is the entirety of SEO. Except,
it is.
Yeah, you with me? You agree?
I agree. I actually have a lot of things to talk about now, but go on.
Nice, awesome. So the bit that everyone overlooks and that nobody cares about except me and maybe Yoast is that underneath all of that is an entire system where Google needs to be able to find your content, and it needs to know that it's allowed to crawl it and interact with it. It needs to know what it's not allowed to access, and it needs to know what's important and what's not, and where it can go for instructions. And then behind all of that, you need to understand how your website's communicating with Google. Where are you providing instructions? What are you signposting? I think it's important to remember that probably over 50% of your site traffic is robotic. And some of that is Google, some of it's Facebook, some of it's other stuff. And those systems also need help to understand your content, and you need to actively market to those systems. That can get very technical very quickly, which is great if you're a nerd, but not if you're focused on running a business and your customers need marketing. So I'm going to go through some things and some easy ways that you can tick off 80% of the kinds of things you need to care about here. Sadly, no magical AI tools for this yet, but watch this space. But I am hoping that we expose some of these in progress planning as tasks and make it a bit more accessible to get through some of these. The good news is that Google Search Console is probably the only tool you need for this. It gives you most of what you need for managing the day-to-day stuff and spotting if you've got problems. So we're going to do a brief exploration of the kinds of things you might see in there, the kinds of things you can definitely ignore, and the kinds of easy actions you can take without needing to get super technical, without needing somebody to tinker with servers, etc. The hack here is if you're not already using and familiar with Google Search Console, go and install Google Sitekit plugin. This is really nice, right? It automatically creates a GSC account, connects it to your website, authenticates you, gives you dashboards. All it integrates with a bunch of other stuff as well, doesn't it? AdWords, PageSpeed
Google
Insights.
Analytics, AdSense.
Yes. Yeah, so you can pull in stats on your site and a whole bunch of systems from Google's ecosystem. Really nice. So just to make this a bit more tangible, we're going to pick on a real site. Some people will be familiar with Atom. Yes, do you want to pitch Atom and position it?
Yeah, so Atom is visual collaboration. That's what it is. It allows people to collaborate on a website by clicking somewhere and and leaving a bit of Google Docs-like style comments on the front end of a website, so that you can actually say, I want this thing to be bigger, or I want to change this text. Full disclosure, Atom is one of the investments of Emilia Capital, and I'm actually on their board. So I can take all your feedback.
No, this is really cool. I've dabbled with this a bit, and I really like it as a product. What I also really like is when I've logged into their Google Search Console, I found some really juicy examples of things you shouldn't do and things you should fix, which we'll go through. And to be fair, like so many people's sites, nobody's site is perfect, and everybody has these kinds of problems. But it was really nice to log in and find exactly the right kind of stories here. So we're going to turn this inside out and look at what Google Search Console sees and see how Google evaluates this site. So if you've logged into GSC, you will recognize this kind of page. I've dulled some of the numbers, I think, just so I'm not giving away too many trade secrets. There is a lot going on here. This is not pretty and not easy or accessible to understand. And it's not well designed, if I'm speaking honestly. Like Google's teams need to really think about the user here. But some key things. So we get essentially trends through time on how much traffic are we getting and where's it coming from. I think the bit we're interested in here particularly is this second chart, which is about indexing. So in order for Google to rank your page, it needs to first find it and then decide whether it's going to index it or not. And part of that is, do they understand it? Is it clearly signposted? So there's 780-ish pages that it's chosen to index and 2,500 that it hasn't. That should be concerning. So Google has found and visited 2,500 URLs where it's gone, I'm not going to put that in Google. some of those might be product pages, some of them might be service pages. Like, we should understand that and be on top of it, so we can dive in a little bit. Click in, we get trends through time, you can interrogate this a bit, etc., and you can drill down a bit further. We go below that. This is where stuff starts to get interesting. So I would recommend that everybody comes and looks at this for their site and becomes at least vaguely familiar with what's going on here. Different types of errors and warnings and issues. Now, as I've said, the design here is not good. Some of these are nonsense. So, for example, there is a section here about excluded by no index tag. Now, it is good practice to deliberately no index pages you don't want to be indexed. Your thank you pages, your out of stock pages, you will deliberately go, do not index this. And then Google will collect it all in here and say, warning, warning, you've got pages that are no index. Like, I know, it's intentional. So you can ignore anything in here that feels silly, which will be a good half of it. These bits, I think, are the interesting ones where you ought to be looking, where there's going to be stuff that you should drop everything you're doing, pour your coffee away, and go and solve today. These are all things you can do in 5 minutes.
I would actually recommend drinking that coffee first.
Yes, that's smarter. That's better. So let's pick on some examples. So again, this is a real site. This is Atarim. I'm going to look at the 404 errors. Good websites don't have 404 errors, right? You're sending email campaigns, people are clicking on links, people bookmark things. If they hit an error, it sucks.
But
so you're pulling a face.
I agree. And at the same time, how many sites have you logged into the GSC for and not seen 404 errors?
Oh, so all of them, always, and in their tens of thousands. This site is really healthy, actually. To say there's only like triple digits here of 404 errors, I might see 1 million 404 errors on an average website. So this is really good. However, if you have a look at some of the examples of these, the top one jumps out at me immediately. It looks like they used to have a competitor comparison page. Interesting. That's now a 404 error. Again, people maybe have the link to this. It's maybe bookmarked. Maybe other websites are linking to this still. And the value, the SEO value that Atarim would have got from those links is now evaporating into thin air. So again, best practice, and I'm sure if you followed anything that Joost ever said, this has been hammered home. Best practice is do not have 404s. If you move a page, if you delete a page, if you change a URL, you need to make sure there's a redirect in place. And all of the SEO plugins for WordPress and all the SEO infrastructure for every other platform will give you tools to do this. And it's usually just as simple as you've deleted this. It used to be at /cats. Now it's at /dogs. Move it over there, and users follow that. If you do nothing else, this is the best cleanup that you can do. And there's some other interesting examples in there. You can see stuff I've deleted and moved and so on. Okay, surface level, more interesting. This is the duplicate without user selected canonical report. And again, most SEO plugins will handle canonical URLs out of the box without you having to worry. But this is Atarim's app subdomain. It's a different part of their website, which I don't think is running on WordPress. Interesting, right? Google is crawling and indexing what look like registration URLs that contain Black Friday coupon codes. Probably don't want those in Google for a whole bunch of reasons. Yeah, and they've probably not noticed. So they're maybe hemorrhaging revenue here, right? People are signing up through discount codes because Google's gone, here's a URL when people have Googled it. Really fun. So keep an eye on this sort of stuff because your www part of your site might not be the only bit. Love it. Some of the most valuable bits in Google Search Console are hidden. It's a really stupid design. You have to go click this little drop down and get to the bits that aren't immediately visible, and then it reveals this. Again, if I would do nothing else, I think, yeah, and possibly the most valuable in understanding where the problem is. So this is URLs that Google has crawled and said, I'm not going to index these. So they've seen them, they've discovered it, they've visited it, they've evaluated, and it said these aren't good. This should be existentially concerning. And when we go and look at what these are, okay, interesting, all sorts of stuff. There's a lot of RSS feeds. Google, no, and this is one of the things we've talked about in a Yoast context, is Google seems to have a thing about crawling and indexing RSS feeds. And as far as they're concerned, they're just pages, right? It's a URL with content. It's no different from a blog page or a home page. It's just a different format. So because WordPress creates so many of these so prolifically, you have RSS feeds for your blog posts, for your comments, for your categories. Google comes and gobbles all of these up. And I would want to make sure that my SEO plugin or my theme config is saying, don't index these. This is not a useful experience for people to find when they're like, if I show you one of these, this is what this looks like as a user. You don't want people Googling your products, your brands, your services, and landing on something like this. This is not a great thing. The other problem here is crawl budget, which most sites won't need to care about. But if you're a big site, Google's arriving and evaluating your pages with a finite resource. And if it's spending time looking at this, might not be spending quite as much time looking at your more important pages. the best bit about this is when you look at what so go back in fact, some of these are like user profiles on the 2023 Atom Summit website, which probably still shouldn't exist anymore, worth considering. Loads of that indexed and still ranking. But these are user profiles that people have quite obviously created for spam purposes. I don't think virtual assistant is this person's real name. You definitely don't want Google indexing this. This is going to compromise the trustworthiness of the whole site and the domain, not just for Google, but for users who see this one. I don't want to shop with a site that looks like it's been hacked. That's going to decrease my chance to engage, to link, to like, to buy. This is all pretty unpleasant. Easy fixes though, like WordPress level is just go in and click no index, redirect it, delete the bad stuff, move the old stuff. This is basics. So in summary for that, I would look in Google Search Console and have a look at where and what Google's evaluating. This is the best tool we have for understanding what they care about and what they don't. Use redirects. Again, the tooling is there in whatever solution you're using. This is pretty straightforward. Don't just delete things and leave it. Spend some time thinking about what should and shouldn't be indexed. Like thank you pages for forms came up the other day. You don't want Google seeing those and indexing them and then people Googling your services and landing on thank you pages. It's a pretty rubbish experience. Really think about should this page be in or out. And identify things like missing best practices, like that app subdomain. Okay, this isn't on WordPress. It's not got canonical URL tags. This is now hurting the rest of our site, even where there is best practice. Again, use these tools to have a look through. Okay, first half, everyone survived. Good. Let's look at another bit. One of the other really nice bits in Google Search Console is you get an aggregated overview of your performance in terms of speed. So they bundle up all your Core Web Vitals scores, analyze all your URLs, and say, in this example, on mobile, all of your URLs are slow. That's problematic. Passing Core Web Vitals by having a fast enough site is a ranking factor, albeit a small one, and it's also very well correlated with user experience, conversion rates, revenue. There's no good reason not to have a fast site now, especially given best practice makes it fairly straightforward. Let's have a look. Similar kinds of reports. What types of problems are there? Where are there? We can see very quickly here, for example, that the biggest problem is largest contentful paint. Biggest number of URLs, biggest problem. That is, how many milliseconds does it take to draw the most important thing on the page, which is typically going to be a big hero image or an H1, so on and so forth. Again, this is the kind of thing that I'm looking forward to really exposing in Progress Planner because we can tick this off quite easily. Again, we can drill down into what and where are those issues, and we can see that it's the blog posts that largest contentful paint is consistently slow. This is where the fun starts. So we can now move from Google Search Console into PageSpeed Insights, which is Google's de facto tool for monitoring performance. And we get something like this, which again, not very user-friendly, not very easy to understand. So we scroll the hell down past this bit to the nice bit where it gives you a comfortable score and explains everything. 36 out of 100 does not need the red for me to tell you that it's bad. This site is slow. And that's bad for users, it's bad for Google, it's bad for the environment, it's bad for a whole bunch of reasons. The nice bit about this is if you scroll down a little bit further, here's your to-do list. And again, some of this is a little bit technical, but actually when you go into it and explore it, we start to see some quite easy things, like the biggest problem with largest contentful paint, and the reason it takes almost 8 seconds to load is it's this big image, and every aspect of it's slow. It's slow to connect to the server, it's slow to initially load it in, it's slow to render and display it. Okay, so we can start to look at why might that be the case. We can move around a bit and say, okay, part of the reason is we're not lazy loading a bunch of other images on the screen. So this one is competing with all these others. The browser is trying to do it all at once. And it literally says, if you're on look, we've detected you're on WordPress, go and follow these best practices, go and install the plugin. Oh, actually, we recommend this WP Rocket in particular. Your mileage might vary, shop around a bit. But like a lot of these problems, it's just a case of saying, starting in Google Search Console, following the links through, and you'll get to a place where it says, look, it looks like your problem is you need to be lazy loading. Click here to read more. Click here to get a recommended plugin. And you can just work through these and you can fix a whole bunch of these problems. Other stuff, for example, avoid enormous payloads. There's almost 3 megabytes of stuff loading. There's a lot of fonts loading on this page. There's an interesting question to be made here about design trade-off. If this page
actually, and flexible fonts, because Roboto is actually also available as a flexible font, so you don't need to load all of them.
Yeah, that's true. Google Fonts has a variable fonts thing, and you can filter for it, and then you can what's the plugin called? WTF fonts or something. There's a WordPress plugin that makes Google Fonts GDPR friendly. Yeah, WTF fonts or something, Google it. So fonts are a really interesting one because part of the challenge of speed is a lot of it comes down to business compromise. So part of the reason this page is slow is that it's loading lots of fonts. If you compromised a little bit on the typography and said we're going to have 2 fonts instead of 3, you could shave a second off that load speed. Is that a good trade-off? Probably. If you had smaller images, would it? So there's some really interesting compromises here on every bell and whistle and feature you add maybe slows down. So just being conscious about where are those lines and where am I willing to draw them is quite powerful. So wrapping up, because that was a lot. Go and find the biggest bottlenecks. Use Google Search Console to find what it's complaining about and start from there, and then go through Lighthouse web page speed insights and just follow that list where it says the biggest problems are. Load less stuff by making good. OMGF, thank you in the chat. Yeah, OMGF is a really nice plugin for taking Google fonts and loading them on your own site in a way that's more performant and less illegal. Certainly more GDPR friendly, so you're not leaking stuff to Google. Don't load stuff that's not needed or used. If we had another hour, we could get into this. But a whole bunch of WordPress plugins are really bad for things like, I don't know, I might have a plugin.
We might have another hour on that at some point in the near future. I'll talk about that later on.
And click the green button at the top to hit follow so that you get notified when we have another hour about this sort of stuff. So things like, I don't know, you add a WordPress plugin to add a contact form, which only exists on your contact page, yet every page on your site is going to load style sheets and JavaScript for it. There's a really nice plugin called Asset Cleanup that you can go through and say, only load this JavaScript on this page. Don't load this CSS if it's a blog post. Again, the user interface isn't great, but you can go through and start to cherry pick that without needing to code or develop. That's quite nice. Make sure you're using modern standards and plugins and themes. So one of the issues on the Atom site was the blog, the images weren't lazy loading. And that's something that's been natively in WordPress for a few years now. So make sure you're running up to date.
Elementor.
Elementor has its pros and cons, right? As to all page builders, again, it's compromise. Like you get a lot of flexibility, but you also inherit the ability to make bad decisions and for out-the-box stuff to not work. So trade-offs. But yeah, make sure everything's up to date because the pace of improvement from WordPress core, thanks a lot for the Google team and the performance team, increases month on month on month. So yeah, hit the button and make sure that you're running the right stuff. That is all we have time for. I hope everyone survived that and that it was interesting. But yeah, I guess the principle is you shouldn't have to worry about most of this, and we will start to drip feed some of this through to your dashboards. We'll work out what's important. We'll work out what needs doing.
We'll tell you where we think you should be fixing things. I think we can already give that away, and we'll also maybe do some workshops here and there to help people do this because it's hard. Nice. Because honestly, I've been playing with ProgressPlanner.com the last few days. We Ari, our wonderful developer, turned it into a full site editing theme, and I've been playing around with that. I'm making it faster. You will see that it's actually fairly fast at this point, but it's hard. All of this stuff. The funny thing is, we didn't actually talk about AI all that much, Jono.
No, well, sadly, not a lot of that can. Well, yeah. Tricky,
we'll get there, but we are going to get to a couple of the questions that Katie was asking. So, do you think that AI can actually help us in querying our analytics?
Yes-ish, and I've dabbled with this, and exactly the problem that you outlined comes up is you've got to be you're going to get some interesting answers, right? And if you, depending on how you're querying it and the integration, you might be reasonably safe. Like if you are uploading a large spreadsheet and saying, can you find any interesting patterns on this, then you're probably reasonably safe. It's going to say, oh, actually, it looks like Thursday afternoons you make twice as many sales. Maybe you should do something. If I was trying to interrogate specific numbers, I'd be slightly nervous. But it's really good for things like turn this. You mentioned a few examples. It's really good for extract the numbers out of this, turn this into a chart, compare these 2 data points over time. That sort of thing, absolutely fine. But I wouldn't want to be saying, build me a forecast model that tells me how much I should be investing in the stock market month to month. Because, yeah, if it makes up one of the numbers in that anywhere, that's a bit scary. But again, to my other point in the chat, most people who are interacting with web analytics, as you say, Google Analytics 4 is a nightmare minefield. Most people employ somebody fairly junior to go get me some numbers. The chance that those numbers are accurate and predictable and correct all the time as well, it's not 100%. So yeah, pick your enemy.
Yeah, I agree. It's actually hard, and I wanted to hear your quick stance on AI content. I'll talk a bit with Michelle Frechette after this on that as well, I guess. But what is your feel? Is that something that could be good at some point in time? Is it good now?
It can be good now, and it will only get better, but only when you put the work in. This scares me. I think the point I touched on briefly, that anything you can do, your competitors can do. The internet is already full, and it's largely full of garbage, and it's increasingly full of AI generated content by SEOs trying to do SEO stuff. And the last thing that we need as a species, never mind marketers, etc., is more articles. Like, there's so many of these things are solved. So many of these pages don't add value to the user, to the corpus of the internet, to the sum of human knowledge. I think AI can be profoundly helpful in assisting with writing, in structuring ideas, in acting as a muse to find interesting patterns, to compare, to extrapolate, to compress. But as a writing tool that just churns out words on pages, so much of what SEO has been to date has been an act of producing articles and content. And I'm not convinced that Google or humans need that anymore because of AI. Like, Google can synthesize answers, they can solve problems. They don't need our crappy articles at scale to do that as a proxy. So yeah, as a assistant tool, incredible, world changing. As you said, I'm so much faster in writing and coding and everything. But yeah, not as a like just insert $1 and get 100 articles out. That's not cool.
Agreed. Well, on that note, thank you very much, Jono. We will see a lot more of you, more announcements on that after I've talked to Michelle. Yeah, let's move on and see if Michelle has opinions on how she uses this and what we can do with that. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
In a bit. Enjoy, Michelle.
Let me see. So, Michelle, have you been talked to death yet by our dear Jono?
I was going to say, we could literally just end here because Katie and Jono took all my answers.
No, that's good, because now I want to know what your answers were.
I think AI, I think we all have a love-hate relationship with AI at this point, right? So
yeah, but let's do the formal thing first. I know
yes.
I didn't do this for Jono, because I do think that everybody who's looked at me or Marika in the last few years knows who Jono is as well. But who are you? What do you do? I know that you work for Stellar WP. Can you tell us what you do there and what else you do? Yeah. Because you do too many things.
Too many, exactly. I'm the director of community engagement for Stellar WP, which includes all of our plugins and our cadence theme and blocks. So I manage a lot of social media. I speak on a lot of stages. I make a lot of connections. I call myself kind of like the networking queen in some respects. So.
I think that's fair. I think there's no one at an average WordCamp who will get more pictures taken with them than you, even Matt. And at this point, probably much more so than Matt. But
we'll talk about that next week.
But so Stellar is a group of plugins, right? It's Solid WP. There's quite a bit there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's Solid WP, Give WP, Restrict Content Pro, the events calendar, Give WP. I know I'm always forgetting some. Iconic, Orderable.
Yeah,
I may have gotten them all. Cadence blocks, cadence theme. Yeah, a bunch of them.
Yeah, you're a part of Liquid Web, and they've been slowly buying all of my friends. It's
well, at least you're still calling us friends. That's a good thing.
Absolutely, that's never going to change. Okay, so you do a lot of writing because of what you do.
I do. Yep, I write for Stellar. I write for Post Status. I write on my own blog. Sometimes guest posting.
We haven't even mentioned Post Status yet. Post Status is also, of course, one of our own investments as well. So it's all coming together so nicely.
I have my piggy bank.
I think it's behind me here.
It is.
Yeah, there it is.
It's always on my desk.
So you write a lot. Do you use AI when you write?
Only sometimes. So I love my own writing. I know that's going to sound incredibly self-indulgent, but I've worked very hard over the years. I'm going to be 56 in a week and a half, and I know I don't look it right, but but I like my style. I like when I write things, and I like that when I write and people know me, they say, I heard your voice reading it to me in my head as I read it. And so, to be true to myself, I only use AI, as Katie said, mostly for research. Sometimes I'll be like, I want to write an article that are 10 things, etc. And I can only think of 8. So I'll be like, hey, AI, give me a list of 10 things. And then I can work from that list, right? And choose and pick and choose and write about those things that I want to write. And occasionally, I will say, I think that I write really well, but I am sometimes I'm charged with writing things that might be a little drier because it's business, right? And so coming up with a catchy title for things, I mean, every post can't start like 5 days without a shower, where people go, what the heck is that about, right? So in those cases, sometimes I'll go to like ChatGPT or something and say, give me 5 titles about this subject, or here's the text and give me a good title, make it catchy, or that kind of thing. And so it has helped me in some respects be able to craft the perfect title that might be more eye-catching than if I just described what it was about.
I'd be grossed out if I saw 5 days without a shower and just not click at all, but that might be just me.
Yeah, but that post has made huge changes in the WordPress community as far as accessibility for disabilities. So people were intrigued.
I can see that. Yeah, definitely. So you use it to improve your writing. Do you also let it inform your writing? Do you let it like say what you write?
Not so much, really. I usually have ideas about what I want to write already. And so I will sometimes, like I said, turn to it just to do a little bit of like, help me think this through a little bit. And sometimes like I've actually written people's bios using that, right? So if you are somebody who's found on the web and you have like maybe a data card or something that, you type in my name in Google, you see a whole data card because I have put a lot of things out onto the web. So if it knows about me, then it can write a bio about me. Is it always 100% accurate? No, because I've never worked for a company in Denver, Colorado, but ChatGPT will tell you that I have, right? So you still have to do your due diligence. You have to read through things. I will sometimes write in summary, but now I won't use that because people are like, oh, ChatGPT wrote that for her because that sounds like something. And I like big words, and like I was talking to somebody and I said something about pictures and where I had been, and I'm like, it was pastoral, it was bucolic, and they're like, how about saying that in a word that everybody else will understand? I'm like, it was pretty.
Well, I do get that a lot. I mean, English is not my native language. I'm pretty good at it, but certainly not like native fluent in all respects. So I will get that when people start to write a bit more, well,
flowery,
a bit more flowery, you'll have words that you go like, I don't know what that is, and luckily on my Mac I can just click it and say, okay, look this up in the dictionary, which I tend to do. But it is, it is I think it is a good thing to make your content more easily readable for everyone. It's actually a very good use case of ChatGPT as well, or any other AI.
Absolutely. I also think it's really helpful for people who aren't native writers, right? So I've spent a lot of time writing. I want the words to be my words. But for somebody who is, building their own website for their electrician business, and they want to put out some articles about, proper use and how to have electric safety in your own home or whatever it is, that's a great opportunity for them to come up with something that sounds intelligent, because they would write something in their own vernacular, which is going to be tech speak, right? But they want something that's going to be for the average end user and the reader. And so being able to use AI to generate articles like that, when writing is not necessarily your strength, I think is where it really comes into play. And it's something that can be really powerful for people.
Yeah. We actually touched on about pages in the very beginning with Katie, like people buy from people. Yes. I think that when you talk about bios, I think about that. I think about, hey, people want to actually know who you are. Is it something you do a lot of?
Yeah, so I love crafting a good bio, and I've helped people write theirs. I actually hired somebody to write mine a long time ago. What you see now is not what they wrote, but it helped me down the right path, because it's difficult to write about yourself without feeling like you're bragging about your accomplishments. But a bio should be the way that you brag about your accomplishments. And like I've heard people say, and I have no data for this at all, but I've heard people say that the about page is the least visited page on your website, but without it, I still can't trust you 100%. So I want it to be there. I may not read it, but I want to at least be able to look and see the faces that own a product or own a
I also don't
service.
actually know if that's true, because I know that on many websites, I will click to the about page because I indeed want to know who I'm buying from, especially if let's say I'm researching a WordPress plugin and I click on the about page, and the about page is just a generic, bland WordPress starter about page. I go like, that's not good.
That's industry specific, right? So it's different than if like I'm looking to hire a plumber. I want to see what their rating is on Angie's List or whatever, whatever those things are.
Yeah, but even then, you still want to see who it is, right? And whether you want that person into your home.
Yeah, but I think that people that work in web, we're more tuned into those things than maybe the general public. I don't know. It's what I've heard. Like I said, no data behind it at all. But if you don't have an about page, especially if it's a new plugin that gets launched or somebody's like, you should try this plugin. I'm in the industry. I'm in WordPress. I'm like, who's behind this? And I will spend 10 minutes trying to figure out who you are. And if I don't know who you are behind it and I can't figure it out, I'm probably going to look for an alternative.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the reasons I immediately bought the VAT plugin is because I knew Katie, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be okay. And if not, I know who to message and get stuff fixed. And
back channels. I can go through back channels.
Well, not even back channels, but you know that you're going to get support, and if support's not good, then you have back channels available. I think that's exactly. I think that's the better answer. But yeah, no, I agree there. Is there? When we look at wider marketing, are there more use cases of AI where you think like, hey, that's where people really should and could use AI?
I know that some, especially in support, like people have ideas of how they want to respond to a support ticket, and finding the way to say it so that other people understand it gets used sometimes for, AI will be like, help me craft this so that it doesn't sound snarky, or so that it's not just so matter of fact, so that it's more engaging, things like that. And I think that absolutely for marketing, people can craft social posts using AI, and they can start. Yeah, you can use it to start a blog post. But seed it, right? Don't just copy paste. Like I'm like the third person here today to say that, right? So fourth, including you. Like, well,
I think that's the biggest lesson we've learned. I'll get to that in a bit with Marika, but basically AI without proper seeding is not worth anything at all.
Right, exactly. And so you want to make sure, and that's just it, right? So we used to have a phrase that I don't hear a whole lot anymore called garbage in, garbage out, right? So AI is only as good as the inputs that we put there. And you can nuance it, right? So like, I love Brene Brown. Brene Brown has a lot of incredible, insightful things that she has to say. And her tone when she speaks and when she writes is one that is engaging, at least for me. And so you can go into and say, write a post about such and such in the tone of Brene Brown or Simon Sinek or one of those people that are prolific in what the information that they're putting out there. And it will craft it as though it was their voice. You don't want to put their name on it, mind you. They didn't write it for you, and you have to be really cautious. So read every single word. But you can absolutely use some nuancing that way to make sure that it sounds more human, and it doesn't sound as though a robot wrote it.
Yeah, I think that's a very good call out, and it's actually one we've heard before as well. Like it can become a bit inhuman when you read it. Okay, let me think. There's a lot going on in the chat at the same time.
Now I want somebody to go into like ChatGPT and say, write this article in the voice of Michelle Frechette and see what they get.
I bet that could work though. There's probably enough content out of you out there, so you could write your own articles by saying, write in the tone of Michelle Frechette, and it would sound like you.
It'll feel like Inception though. I'll have to try it and report back.
Yeah, so when I need to write an article, I do write something in the tone of Marika because, well, She writes like half of the stuff I write. She writes a lot of the content for. No, but yeah, I think that is actually a good idea. So in all of this marketing, do you think that AI is going to be something that we do more and more and more, or are we actually going to go back to you're buying from humans?
I think you're going to see a combination of both, right? So I think that the current economy, at least in a lot of the areas, is we've seen a lot of layoffs. We've seen a lot of scaling back of personnel, and so I'm seeing more and more AI on things like the online chats, right? So this is a chat bot as opposed to a real person, unless it escalates to the point where a real person has to jump in, or you have to say, send me an email later, those kinds of things. So I think we're seeing more and more of that. And let's face it, a chatbot is part of marketing. You land on a website, you want to know information, you're asking the chatbot that. You're hoping it's a real person, and you're finding out very quickly that it's not in most cases. I don't see that changing necessarily. I think that's a low-level marketing part where you can seed it with a lot of the right answers that people are coming to ask about your product and your service. But I do think that we're going to see more and more, at least human vetting of what we're getting out of AI before things actually hit the general public. And I would hope that that would continue to be the case. The idea, I don't believe that all the robots are becoming sentient, and that like my Amazon Alexa is suddenly going, I think I just activated her. It's going to like come at me and like start feeding me information as in my sleep kind of thing. But it is getting smarter and smarter, and we have trained it over time. We being people much smarter than me, but we have trained it over time to be able to be more interactive. One of my favorite posts ever this was about Siri. This was like 5 or 6 years ago, was a mother of an autistic child had given her child an iPad, and that child was carrying on hours-long conversations with Siri that this child wasn't capable themselves in their current situation of carrying on with other children and adults, because there was a comfort level with the way that they could interact in a less emotional way with AI. And to me, that shows that there is absolutely perfect ways that we can use AI beyond marketing in other places to help people, certainly. I'm sorry, I just saw the comment that Jono is a very interactive robot by Sam. So very distracted by that.
It's true though. having worked with him for a while, I can attest to this. He's very interactive.
But if you think about the fact that there's an entire audience of people who are on the spectrum, who like that kind of interaction, then marketing through those kinds of interactions is also going to be something that we should be looking at, or at least paying attention to the fact that it's going to happen, right? So there are different ways that we meet different audiences through marketing. Some people love social media. Some people love YouTube and videos. Some people only like audio as they're driving, right? So there's what you hear in a commercial on the radio is different than what you see in a commercial on television, and again is different than the ads that play on YouTube, because different audiences consume information in different ways, and different audiences prefer information in different ways. And so I think that AI is going to come into play in a lot of those kinds of cases, very much specified to the direct audience that they're trying to reach.
Okay. My mind is blown. I've had too much input in the last few minutes. It's funny how you can get so much info in an hour and a half, and then go like, I had more questions, but they're buried somewhere now. Absolutely.
Well, let me jump in and say that I have installed Progress Planner on one of my websites, and because of my own way that I deal with information, it's already a love-hate relationship, because it's like Duolingo. Like, I've got to do a lesson today or I'll lose my streak, and I need those badges, and it has to be gamified. And I haven't engaged with it enough yet to feel like I've earned a badge. And so I'm like, every time I get an email from my website about my progress, I'm like shamed I'm shamed, but it also has
in
been
a way,
a very
that's
busy
good, right?
month. It's been a very busy month.
It was
Your
a very
campiness and
busy
everything
month.
else,
I'll
so.
grant you that. Absolutely. No, but yeah, it is funny how well that gamification always works,
Yeah.
and how, and I can't even explain it, but I'm no psychologist,
Yeah.
or not
Well, true.
even very close to it. But it works, and it does. Yeah, it creates feelings about your website, which is well, I'm actually very happy that it does.
I just
You
logged
might
in
need
to
to
look.
tweak it a bit so you don't feel so bad about it.
Oh, that's just me. That's just me. I logged in and I was like, you have 39 plugins. I'm like, I have 39 plugins on this. Like 13 of them need to be updated. What? So yes, I will be.
Well, but that's
Let's just
actually
say-
good, because that's
Oh,
keeping
it's
you safe,
perfect.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm like, I should have been paying attention to that prior to this.
Yeah.
So no, it's very,
Oh
very
yeah,
good.
but
and-
I get that too. I mean, it's one of the reasons we started building this. Marika came up with this idea, and I was like, yes. And then I figured out that she was updating her own plugins, and I was like, yes.
Yeah. No, I think it's beautiful for that. I love that. And just like, you know, the Duolingo owl, that actually on your app on the screen will start to
So
look
we've called it
detective.
Ravi, who is actually
Yes.
one of our sons. So
I
he's
love
very
that.
happy that we've used his name. he actually reached out to some of you as well to get your address. So that was actually the person, not the bird.
Not the bird, right?
But yeah, no, it's
and now that I know it's your son, it's like, well, I can't disappoint Ravi. I have to go in and update all my plugins. Or Ravi will be so disappointed in me.
No, he's very nice, and 12, so so that'll go away at some point. Okay, perfect. Well, Michelle, I want to thank you. I'm going to bring in Marika. I'll actually do that right now, so and then so that we can wave to each other like ah. Oh, sorry, you're still muted, Marika. Let me unmute you.
I'm not clear yet either, or at least that's
no.
my thing.
It takes a bit of time to make that better, I think.
Oh, Michelle, I just added you in Duolingo.
What language are you learning? I'm learning Spanish.
I'm learning Italian.
Yes.
But we can do, because we are really, Joost as well, we are both very, very keen on doing Duolingo. But we should make sure to make people feel less guilty because Duolingo does it with me too, and I don't particularly like that feeling, because that's too stressful.
When the owl is frowning at you from your from your phone, and it's like turning its back on you like you've forgotten me.
Yeah. That's bad.
Yeah. But it's that streak. I've got over 1,300 days. I'm not going to miss my streak, you know?
1,300, Jesus.
1,300? I have 665.
I just started before you, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot, Michelle. We'll be in touch. We, of course, will see more of you over time, but on Post Status and other places. Yes. Where's the best place that people can follow you?
MichelleFrechette.com.
Perfect. Wow.
You can also find her on Duolingo.
Find me on Duolingo.
Now she suddenly has 200 Duolingo friends. Okay. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Thanks for having me.
What are we doing?
Yeah, I'm
still not clear, right?
No, you're not.
What's it? Maybe.
What's it doing? Why is it not making you clear?
I don't know.
We are actually in the same building, so Marika is sitting like 8 meters away from me. It's weird that my connection is crystal clear.
No, but I'm going to turn off and turn on my camera. Maybe that helps.
Let's see. Well, this picture is clear.
Yeah. Right.
Yes, it's better. Yes.
I solved it myself.
You solved it yourself. Very, very good.
Can you bring on the slides?
I can.
I actually did a test and asked ChatGPT to rewrite something in the style of Michelle Frechette and in your style and then my style, but my style I couldn't recognize. In your style, it says words like robust and top-notch, which are things you would say, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Yes.
So I recognize that, but in my style, it used big words, and I don't ever do that. So he doesn't know me.
But this was amazing, right? We should do more of this.
It was so much fun. It's maybe a bit exhausting for you, though, Joost.
It was quite tiresome, yes.
Yes, I can imagine. I can imagine. There's a lot of talking, or speaking. We are going to do more of this. So if you go to the next slide.
I can.
Okay.
I just did.
So what was the most important takeaway for you, Joost? Did you learn anything new from you have to
Well,
say
I think
yes.
that the thing that always gets back is when you talk about AI is that we really need to feed it with the right information
Right.
and really seed it well for it to do useful stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. You're totally right.
And
You know what I particularly liked? And I want every store to have that. I like the idea of a personal assistant that Katie gave, because
yeah.
I do a lot of shopping online. I'm quite an expert, actually. I should do less, but I still do that. And it's really hard to find stuff. So it would be awesome if shops would have such a thing, which is fairly easy with AI now, I think.
I think so too. It's actually fairly easy to feed your product catalog to an AI like DocSpot, as Katie mentioned,
Yeah.
who's actually from the WordPress community as well. And yeah, I think that you can definitely do that.
Yeah. And I was just scared by everything Jono said, but that's usually the case because he just
Yes.
shows us how difficult everything is.
Well, yes, and it's also, but I think it's also realistic. I have never logged into a GSC account for someone who wanted to hire me and not seen at least 10,000 errors.
Yeah, but that is the problem, right?
It is a problem. It is very much like, well, I think it's one of the raison d'être for Progress Planner.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. Yeah.
We need people to actually maintain their sites, and it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. And you tend to forget about those things, right? Because you don't necessarily see your links being broken or something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and I also want to, yeah, we're going to talk about that, but I also want to, because I have to write a lot of bios. So AI is really useful for that, because you have to write something different every time, because otherwise.
Yes, and one of my most used features is actually, so people will send you a bio in the I form, and you'll say, okay, rewrite this in another form, and it will do that very nicely.
Yeah. So great ideas, but we have so many plans for Progress Planner. So in December, we're planning to launch a pro version. And we'll also be adding features to our free version, making that free version better and more usable. We've been asking a lot of feedback to the entire WordPress community, actually, and a lot of people were very kind. Well, they gave us a lot of feedback. No, they were also very kind. And we listened to that, and we've adapted a lot of things. So they're going to be in the next versions of Progress Planner. So let's talk about some things we're going to be adding, both in Pro and in the free version. So yes. And you said we actually should be launching a little bit earlier than December, right?
Yeah, there's this thing called Black Friday, which is apparently a thing, and I think we should be ready for it.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to make sure that we're ready for it.
Great. So I don't know if this will be in the first version, but this is something that I'm very excited about, which is suggested tasks. It will be part in Pro and part in the free version. So what was one of the major feedback things we got back is that people said, yeah, now I want to have higher scores, but I don't know what I should be working on. So, okay, I will update my plugins, but what's next? So in the suggested tasks, we will give people virtually an endless list of things they should be working on. We'll tell you should be rewriting this blog post because it hasn't been updated for like ages. You should be now writing something new. You don't have this specific page yet. All these kinds of stuff, we'll put those in the suggested tasks, which will pop up. as people are working, or every week they'll get new suggested tasks, right?
Yes, which is also going to be very scary because it shows you that you're never done with your website.
No, but there will be more badges to earn, because one of the other feedback we got, I want to have a badge every month. You can have a badge every month in the next versions of Progress Planner, which is going to be fun, I think. And then, yes, you can go to the next slide. The next feature we're working on, we're actually pretty far. We've made beautiful mini.
Yeah, this is live screenshots. This works.
Yeah, on our side, but not on other people's sides.
Well, in a plugin, yes.
So another thing, which is the deal with procrastination, is that a lot of people procrastinate because they just don't know how to get started with something. So we're going to help you get started. And the course with mini courses, they're called mini courses. I don't know why. They're actually pretty large, but there are courses that help you to create blog posts, or a good product page, or an about page, or a contact page. We're making more of them, and you can access these courses right in the back end while working on such a page. So while working on, I don't know, your about page, you can have your mini courses about the about page in your backend. So watch the video and at the same time talk to ChatGPT and do some writing yourself and make a beautiful about page.
And actually,
really cool.
Yeah, what I really like about this is that when we created these courses, we came up with checklists for every type of page that we created the course for. So we'll have a checklist for an about page of what needs to be on your about page. And you can actually check those boxes in the back end, and it'll save your progress, and it will tell you, like, have you done all the things that we think are required for your about page? So it really is like a step-by-step guide on how to, not on how to do the technical work, but on what needs to be on that page and why it needs to be there.
So we'll help you, remind you have to do these tasks, but we'll also help you to get started. We have a lot of good examples. So in the about page course, I know we have the example of our dentist, just our local dentist, who has an amazing about page. Very, very like basic site, but they do the right things because they're very friendly, and that's very important in a dentist. So you'll have all these kinds of examples that could help you if you are suffering from any kind of writer's block. So I think that is very helpful as well. And we have
I agree.
Building those, right, Joost?
Sorry?
We had some fun building these courses.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you'll see videos of Marika and me talking to you about these things. I'll be in that same chair as Marika is there on this slide, and which is actually her office on the other side of the wall that you see behind me. I think it's really good fun, and it's helping people do the basics right, which is hard enough as it is.
Yeah, and then the third thing, this is going to be the most amazing thing, which ties into what Jono was talking about, because we're going to do challenges. And this is a new thing, because courses and like features and the plugin, they all exist. But challenges need some explaining. What we'll do is we'll do multiple challenges a year. I don't know exactly how many, but I think about 8. And every challenge starts with a review for all of our pro customers for something that is important for your website. Could be broken links, could be site speed, could be SEO, could be accessibility. So what our customers will get is an analysis of that particular subject. We'll just tell them, your site is doing well on this part, your site is not doing well on this part, and you'll have that. And then you'll start crying or be very happy. But after we send that report, we'll give you all kinds of help on how to improve your website on that particular subject. So we're planning to start with a broken links challenge in December, which means that we'll send a report to our customers, not a customers to our report. That's really weird. We'll send a report to our customers and tell them, you have so many broken links on your website, and here they are.
Well, we'll actually tell you where these broken links are, because I'm building this not as we speak, but I've been working on that this week, and
You'll start working on it again right after this works. Yeah.
No.
And then what we'll do is we'll help people to improve upon their broken links. We'll help them because we'll make educational content both in writing and in video. We'll do a webinar, a more general webinar on broken links in general. And we'll have a workshop, which is practical, in which people can ask questions and make them help fix their errors. So because we'll do like these challenges multiple a year, the idea is that you fix all the things that need fixing on your website, and they'll come around after a year, because after a year you have to check and fix your broken links again. So if you just follow the lead progress planner gives you, your website will always be properly maintained. That's the goal, right? Help people.
Yeah, that is the goal. I was actually very happy when Jono was showing all of his expertise, and I was going like, yes, but we will actually need to guide people to do this, because it's quite hard.
It's hard.
I mean, so we might not immediately integrate, which was one of the questions that came up in the chat. Actually, we might not immediately integrate with Google Search Console within the plugin, but we will look at it for you and look at it with you and help you figure out these things and fix them. I think that there's many things that we can do like that. We'll probably start with site speed more so than Google Search Console, but we will go through these step by step and guide you along the way.
So these are all the things that everybody knows that they should be working on, but you tend to forget. And if you just do because you can't do everything at once, we'll focus on one area with the challenges while reminding you every week with the suggested tasks. Hey, don't forget to update those plugins. Hey, don't forget to update this blog post that has been outdated and you haven't looked at for 4 years, to get you working through everything you need to be working through. And you receive badges, because that's the most important thing.
Of course, badges are always the most important thing. And so in total, that this should still only cost you like a couple of hours a month, right? Because I can hear people think already like, I don't have time for all of this.
No, but you should have, because you're not. Well, you didn't build a website just to not have visitors or to.
I agree.
Yeah. So you want to stand out. So if you're like serious about your website, you should be doing some work. Yeah.
I fully agree. And if you're not putting in the work, then is your website really worthwhile to be on the web?
So we're really excited, because I think this is going to be so much fun. I think it's going to be so much fun to help people with their website, to get those websites up and running, to help people remind them of the things they need to do. So we are already having a lot of fun with Progress Planner, but I hope we can just spread joy.
I hope so too. I think we can actually. So I want to thank a couple of people. Should I bring them on stage real quick again, if they're still here? If they're
you can,
up for
but
it?
then just leave this out there for a little while. Or can you just also leave this one?
I can do that.
So that people can follow us, you know.
It's super powerful. Look at that. Suddenly they're all here again. All these wonderful people.
Oh, this is so nice.
A Crowdcast is so good. I want to thank you all. This was really, really exciting. I'm also very tired now. but I'm going to take a nap and get a drink. I want to thank you all. So Jono Alderson is at Jono Alderson pretty much everywhere. Katie Keefe is at Katie Keefe Bond 2 everywhere, I think, aren't you? Yes. Sorry, you're muted. Let me unmute you. There you go. Yes, you're good to go. Katie Keefe Bond 2 is correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's me on Twitter, or just the website, barn2.com.
Barn2.com. And Michelle already said so, because I didn't forget to actually ask that question. So she's Michelle.
If you go to meetmichelle.online, you get all the different links, because some places I'm Ames and some places I'm Frechette. So
yeah, that does confuse me at times, but
I know. Sorry.
You get used to it.
That whole divorce thing.
Meetmichelle.online.
That's why I never took his name.
I wish I hadn't, but whatever.
But I'm not going to divorce you, Joost. But I just didn't want to. No, but his mother is also called Marika. I didn't want to have the same name as my mother.
I can see that. Okay, thank you all very much. Thanks everyone for joining. If you haven't installed Progress Planner yet, now is the time where you start doing that. And if you did, then we'd love to hear all your feedback so you can give us some to-dos as well.
Yes, give us some to-dos.
Oh, nice.
We're going to be at WordCamp the Netherlands, which is when Black Friday is. I don't know when. I just know that it's the same. And we'll have a proper to-do list that you can give to-dos to us. And that will be our thing on every WordCamp. I understand that we'll give you to-dos, but you can give us to-dos whenever you meet us, and we'll look into those.
Well, looking forward to seeing some of the people in the chat there, and if everyone else, well, at a WordCamp around the world, we'll see you soon enough. Thank you all for joining, and that's it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.